So was this a direct response to what WWE is doing? I don't know. Maybe I would assume they were already talking about Madison. Maybe the timing just happened to be when all this stuff is going on in WWE. But I think it's smart to announce it in the way that they did because it's showing that they are being proactive. And that they are, because like, so you have on Raw, you have Bailey and Io, she's now Io Sky, and Dakota Kai, that you have them, and you have them in this stable, and they are heavily featured. The women were heavily featured on Raw, and so that Wednesday Dynamite put the women's match at 8:30, which the long running joke with them is that the women wrestle between at like 9, generally at 9:20. It's usually when they go. It's almost like it's a running joke that it's always at that time. So they wrestled at 8:30. They wrestled. There were 4 women involved. It was Thunderstorm versus Britt and Jamie. So they got 4 women, and they wrestled for 12 and a half minutes, which is a little bit longer than they typically get on Dynamite. Dynamite tends to be 7 to 9 minutes, sometimes 10. So it's really, it kind of felt like it was in response to what WWE is doing. Then you kind of pair that, and then they wrestled on Rampage. They had yes, it was Madison and it was her, she's the coach and things like that. So maybe that was part of the reason, but they had an 8.5 minute match. And then last night, obviously with pay-per-views, they tend to do longer matches, but the match last night was 11.5 minutes, which shorter than what Thunder Rosa has been doing on pay-per-view. She usually wrestles 15.5 minutes, but they still got, pretty decent time last night. So it kind of seems like maybe some of this is in response to WWE. It was also announced that they trademarked All Elite Women. We don't know what that is yet. It could be, a lot of people, and my first assumption was that it was an all women's wrestling show, which is what I hope it is. I don't know necessarily if that's what it is. Another thing that leads me to believe that is because they trademarked that, like when in the filing that was released, there was stuff about pay-per-view and streaming and video on demand. So it sounds like potentially. But then some people are wondering if it's going to be an all women's show, kind of like Total Divas, like in that type of thing. And somebody else was like, well, what if they do kind of a Talking Smack type of thing where it's all women just being interviewed and stuff like that, which is fascinating. Some people thought maybe it's a new version of AEW Hills, so there are a lot of possibilities. But it sounds like, and in that same filing, it was talking about how now it was stuff about trademarking like dolls and action figures and board, which of course doesn't mean they're all, that all these things are going to happen, but it sounds like they are changing their marketing tactics of the women's division. And it leaked. The video game, the Fight Forever video game cover leaked, and Britt Baker and Jade Cargill are on that cover. So there are men on the cover, but they do have 2 women. In an image that leaked, Abaddon is in the game, and it is believed to be that they are the first non-binary wrestler to be in a video game. And if Nyla Rose, she should be in the game because she is a champion, our former champion, it is thought that she would be the first transgender woman to be in a wrestling video game. So it seems like AEW is making some really big strides. Again, it's kind of that same thing with WWE where you don't want to get too excited until you see what actually is going to be. But again, the timing, is it because some of this obviously has been in the work for a while? It sounds like the All Elite Women trademark is probably in the works for a while, but it is interesting to see like the timing of everything with WWE. And I wrote an article about it. One of the things that I pointed out was, WWE seems to be putting their foot down with how they're presenting women. Impact has long had what people think is the best women's division in the United States. And they brought Matt. And so it seems like, okay, well, we're going to get Madison Rayne from Impact because she's been a part of that division. She's a multi-time champion. She's been wrestling for 15 plus years. again, why I think they should bring Maria in. It would make sense. And then
Yeah.
I was like, then you have MLW has the featherweight division, which I'm not 100% sure is still active, but I know Taya Valkyrie was the champion with that. Shimmer's coming to TV in September. New Japan doesn't even have a women's division, and they're getting a joint title with Stardom in November. So basically, I'm at the point where AEW has to step it up, or they're going to get left behind. Is how, I don't think there's any other way to put it. Is that, they are going to have to do some things, and they can't just do, 2 women's matches on Dynamite is not the answer. That doesn't solve the problem. Like, it's got to be more, more TV time, more storylines, more character development, which Impact is really good at doing. WWE, if that's where Triple H is going, like it was in NXT, they have a good, they are good at that. I mean, of course, and again,
the NXT women's division was one of the best products, women's wrestling products that WWE ever put out.
100% agree.
With the as the women's wrestling was concerned.
Agree.
That was far and away. That was like the first time they let them have the time and the mic and the whole thing. Like, go wrestle.
And have a character, and have a well-rounded character at that, and we don't rely on the old tropes of she's taking my man, or she's in the cattiness,
or just conversations that would never
happen.
Sometimes
exactly.
I'm like, I'm very awkward with other women, but I wouldn't even have this bad of a conversation.
Exactly. So they made it. They were more realistic. And like, I remember when they first put together, when it was Liv and Ruby and was it Sarah Rowe that was with them? I think it was the 3 of them. But when they first got people were commenting, they were like, there's no way these 3 would be friends in real life. And I'm like, clearly you don't know women. You think women are only pretty people are friends with pretty people, and only like sporty people are friends, or only nerds are friends with nerds. Like, you don't realize that. Yes, the women generally, a lot of women have really diverse friend groups, and they have people that and I was like, and it turns out the 3 of them are extremely close in real life. And so it just goes to so it's nice to have friendships like that on TV too, and that it's not all catty, because like the diva, and one of the things I hated about the divas was that everything was so catty. Like, it was always just the worst stereotypes of what women are, and I hated that. That's how they were portrayed, because that's just reinforces what a lot of people believe. Even we've had the conversation about how women we've had to unlearn a lot of things because of what was shown to us in the media, and I think, and we've talked about how wrestling is a reflection of that. So it's nice to see, women being empowered to do stuff outside of the box, and outside of the norm. And it seems like Triple H might be getting back to that in WWE, which would be fantastic. And so AEW is going to have to do that too.
I mean, it'll be good because it will sort of force AEW's hand. I think one of the things, and this may be communication, but I also happen to think that it's, when you're an in-ring talent, and you kind of have you get a bit of a storyline. Like, this is where we're sort of going with this. And they're not going to tell you the whole thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of freedom at AEW, and not everybody knows how to tell a story. Not everybody knows about protagonists and antagonists. And I think it's important. It's like, I actually have asked this question a few times, and I mean, no one's going to know the answer except the people inside that office. But it's like, do they have storyboard meetings once a week? Because it's something you should do, because it's not, when they were in the gym doing neck bridges and, whatever all else, suplexes and whatnot, no one was teaching you how to, rising action and, stories have structure, just like a wrestling match has structure.
Sure. Right.
So I learned the structure of the wrestling match, but I wasn't like taking story stuff on the
right,
side.
and not everybody has
it.
Most people don't have a PC to learn these things. So like they've got, I mean, just because AEW doesn't, I mean, Impact doesn't have it either, and like most companies don't have a performance center where they go and they learn these things, and so yeah.
But also, I mean, I think that they're a little bit I mean, it's very scripted at WWE, so they're force-fed it. I think that the other extreme of that is being so open that you're asking people to perform a skill that they don't have.
Well, and that is, I want to bring this up, and I know that Big Swole is a lightning rod for some people, but that is one of the things she talked about, was that it's great that they have all of this creativity and these freedoms, but some of these people, especially in the women's division, they've never had that before. Like they don't know how to cut promos. They don't know how to be the ones that tell the story. Like you said, they know the structure of a match, but they're not comfortable being put in these situations where they are driving the story with promos and story and, character. And like you said, if they're not storyboard and stuff, they're not going to know what to do. And so I think that kind of goes back to some of what Big Swole was saying, is that, that they are given it. On the one hand, it's really great for a lot of people to not have that structure and just to be able to say whatever they want, especially if they came from WWE where everything was so rigorous, and they had to say things a certain way. But then for the people who don't have that background, they are kind of lost and they don't know exactly what to do. And I'm sure Dustin Rhodes is, obviously people assume because of Dusty and how Dusty was great at storytelling, that, and I think Dustin has kind of taken over some of that, but that's kind of that's also unfair of him to ask Dustin Rhodes to be his father and to do the things that,
because to be the only person. I mean, my father was a soccer coach, and one of the things he did a lot, but he was often a women's soccer coach. And one of the things that he did very often was to have a female assistant coach with him, because there's things that he knew he didn't understand. That's having daughters.
Right. Yeah.
And he still was like, look, if I have daughters and I know that there's things that I still don't get, then there's definitely going to be moments when I think sometimes you need to if one lady just needs to be able to go to another lady and be like, do you know what I'm saying? And then have the other lady go, I absolutely know what you're saying.
And I guess they kind of
that works both ways.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Is equally as true. If you wanted me to I was talking about this very thing with a friend recently, is that dudes don't have any of that when it comes if I don't like you, I don't hang out with you, and that's it. And that's not something that necessarily is true for women. Or I mean, it was like a simple, but it's like, it's just true, guys. We are different. Holy crap. But I mean, I think maybe having someone with the breadth of experience as her, and maybe, I mean, again, we don't know what her role was necessarily at Impact, but certainly with as much experience as she has, you can't sit there and pretend that they didn't talk to her about stuff.
Right. And then, Serena Deeb has been there, and she had been doing some coaching as well. But she also has the WWE background because she was a PC coach for several years. So she has kind of that stuff as well. But I don't know. Again,
she was treated a lot differently by the WWE in general, I think, because when you're not Mandy Rose looking, I think that you get a different. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that you were treated totally differently if you look like Serena Deeb than if you look like Mandy Rose.
Right,
I mean,
definitely.
It's simple, but
right, and it's true. And so now they've got, and then we don't really know when Kenny is coming back, and so Kenny probably has not. Before he was injured, he was really hands-on with the women's division. I don't know what it's been since he's been injured, and he's clearly not there week to week, where a Dustin Rhodes or a Serena Deeb and now a Madison Rain is, which I think the women probably need that type of consistency where there's somebody, and it sounds like, from what I understand, Dustin kind of goes through, and Serena is the same way, that they gotta go through like drills with them and teaching them and helping them practice, especially some of the women who, are mostly on like Dark and Elevation and things like that, which is phenomenal. But I think that Madison, and one of the things that Madison, I think, will be really good at, she's phenomenal with the camera. She's really good at knowing where the camera is. And I think she's going to be, so I think she can probably help them more with like the storytelling side of things. I still do think they should bring Maria in for the creative and more of the storyline type of things. But I think Maria in conjunction with Madison could be huge for the women's division. Like, I think Madison can do a lot, and it's not to take away anything from Madison. She may have fantastic ideas, and maybe she has creative ideas.
It's a pretty big division. It gives you more voices, and
now you've got
Kenny's got a lot of things to focus on when he comes back. That we don't know exactly what's happening with Ring of Honor, and if they're going to get their own division and their TV stuff, then you're going to have coaches there as well. So maybe you have Serena do the ROH side of things, because they are more technically based with the stories they tell. So maybe Serena moves over to the ROH side, and they keep Madison on the AEW side. Again, with Ring of Honor, you would think, and because Maria basically revitalized the Women of Honor last summer and what she was doing there. So it would make sense to have her kind of involved with that, especially because it seems like they're using Willow more often. I hope that they've signed her to some sort of deal the way they keep using her. Trisha Dora had been signed right before. I hope they're bringing her back as well. And so they're going to be refilling that women's division. So they're going to need coaches there too. And so, but yeah, it seems so. Like, as we've said, competition is obviously, it's good for everybody. It should push them to do more. And so now, like I said, we've got Shimmer coming next month. That is all women. That's, AJ Lee is behind all of that. And you have someone like her, of her caliber, with these women. And so they're coming to TV. So that's another option for people to see. And they're going to see how, and of course it's all women, so it's going to be different than how, AEW and even WWE and Impact are run. But you're going to see what they're doing with their women, and wondering why, these companies aren't doing the same thing. Like, these women have time to have characters. They can build, like, and of course, you're going to have because it is all women, they have to run the show. So they do have to have the stories and the characters, but you need to be doing that on national TV as well. And so that's been an issue, that's been a concern with AEW for 3 years now. And so it seems like WWE is recommitting. WWE hears this stuff. They know that's been a complaint. So they're going to be like, okay, well, clearly people want that, and that's an issue that they're not getting, and that's an issue with AEW that's not getting fixed. So I'm going to fix it, and this is how we're going to do it. And so I think it seems like it. So it seems like maybe it is already pushing AEW a little bit, because they got the longer matches. They got the match on earlier. Is this something that they keep? And so it would be nice to kind of see them push each other. And then Impact is still doing their thing, and they still have a really strong women's division. Like, you have Masha Slamovich, who is 14-0 now. Oh, yeah.
But it's not in the same way that Jade is. It's a kind of it's kind of a different thing, because Masha is she's a different type of wrestler. Her style is different. Her presentation is different. She doesn't get on the microphone. She's just basically she's just this ass kicker. Not that Jade's not, but it's just this completely different representation of how it's being handled. And then you've got Deonna Purrazzo, and you've got Tasha Steelz, and she's got Savannah now. And so there's a lot of good women over there. And Impact has been kind of, a lot of people, when they talk about women's wrestling on TV, Impact is one that they keep going to. And so maybe luring Madison away from Impact is to kind of bring some of that Impact over to AEW.
Let's hope so. I mean, let's hope that it's any change is a change for the better.
Yeah, so. And again, cautiously optimistic, just like with WWE.
Yeah.
AEW happens. Just because they're AEW does not mean that I'm automatically going to think, because I've seen how they've handled this women's division and how we get a few things going forward, and then we're right back to where we were. So hopefully they just continue to push each other, and women just get better representation on TV.